Álvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca was a Spanish explorer of the New World, and one of 4 survivors of the 1527 Narváez expedition. During 8 years of traveling across the U.S. Southwest, he became a trader and faith healer to various Native American tribes before reconnecting with Spanish colonial forces in Mexico in 1536. After returning to Spain in 1537, he wrote an account, first published in 1542 as La Relación, which in later editions was retitled Naufragios. Cabeza de Vaca has been considered notable as a proto-anthropologist for his detailed accounts of the many tribes of American Indians that he encountered. In 1540 Cabeza de Vaca was appointed adelantado of what is now Argentina, where he was governor and captain general of Rio de la Plata. He worked to build up the population of Buenos Aires, where settlement had declined due to the poor administration. Cabeza de Vaca was transported to Spain for trial in 1545. Although his sentence was eventually commuted, he never returned to the Americas. He died in Seville. Early life and education. Álvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca was born around 1490 into a Hidalgo family, the son of Francisco Núñez de Vera and Teresa Cabeza de Vaca y de Zurita, in the town of Jerez de la Frontera, Cádiz, Spain. Despite the family's status as minor nobility, they possessed modest economic resources. In 16th-century documents, his name appears as Álvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca. Álvar Núñez's maternal surname, Cabeza de Vaca, was said to be associated with a maternal ancestor, Martin Alhaja. He had shown the Spanish king a secret mountain pass marked by a cow's skull, enabling the king to win the Battle of Las Navas de Tolosa against the Muslim Moors in 1212. Some sources indicate that after his parents died when he was young, the boy Álvar was taken in by relatives. Evidence suggests that he probably had a moderately comfortable early life. He was appointed chamberlain for the house of a noble family in his teen years, then participated in the conquest of the Canary Islands, where he was appointed a governor. In 1511, he enlisted in the Spanish army, serving in Italy, Spain and Navarre. He received several medals of honor and became more of a political figure in Spain. In 1527, Núñez joined the Florida expedition of conquistador Panfilo de Narváez, during which he served as treasurer and marshal. Narváez expedition and early Indian relations. In 1527, the explorer named Panfilo de Narváez was sent by Spain's King Charles I to explore the unknown territory which the Spanish called La Florida. Cabeza de Vaca was attached to this expedition as the expedition's treasurer. Records indicate that he also had a military role as one of the chief officers on the Narváez expedition, noted as sheriff marshal. On June 17, 1527, the fleet of 5 ships set sail towards the province of Panico. When they stopped in Hispaniola for supplies, Narváez lost approximately 150 of his men, who chose to stay on the island rather than continue with the expedition. The expedition continued to Cuba, where Cabeza de Vaca took 2 ships to recruit more men and buy supplies. The fleet was battered by a hurricane, resulting in the destruction of both ships and loss of most of Cabeza de Vaca's men. Narváez arrived days later to pick up the survivors. By February 1528, the remaining ships and men resumed their expedition, reaching Florida in April. They anchored near what is now known as the Jungle Prada site in St. Petersburg, claiming this land as a possession of the Spanish Empire. After communicating with the Native Americans, the Spanish heard rumors that a city named Apalacan was full of food and gold. Against the advice of Cabeza de Vaca, Narváez decided to split up his men. Some 300 were to go on foot to Apalacan and the other would sail to Panico. Apalacan had no gold but had only corn, but the explorers were told the village known as Aute, about 5 or 9 days away, was rich. They pushed on through the swamps, harassed by the Native Americans. A few Spanish men were killed and more wounded. When they arrived in Aute, they found that the inhabitants had burned down the village and left, but the fields had not been harvested, so at least the Spanish scavenged food there. After several months of fighting native inhabitants through wilderness and swamp, the party decided to abandon the interior and try to reach Panico. Slaughtering and eating the remaining horses, they gathered the stirrups, spurs, horseshoes and other metal items. They fashioned a bellows from deer hide to make a fire hot enough to forge tools and nails. They used these in making 5 primitive boats to use to get to Mexico. Cabeza de Vaca commanded one of these vessels, each of which held 50 men. Depleted of food and water, the men followed the coast westward, but when they reached the mouth of the Mississippi River, the powerful current swept them out into the Gulf, where the 5 rafts were separated by a hurricane. Some were lost forever, including that of Narváez. 2 crafts with about 40 survivors each, including Cabeza de Vaca, wrecked on or near Galveston Island. Out of the 80 survivors, only 15 lived past that winter. The explorers called the island Milhado, or the Island of Doom. They tried to repair the rafts, using what remained of their own clothes as oakum to plug holes, but they lost the rafts to a large wave. As the number of survivors dwindled rapidly, they were enslaved for a few years by various American Indian tribes of the upper Gulf Coast. Because Cabeza de Vaca survived and prospered from time to time, some scholars argue that he was not enslaved but using a figure of speech. He and other noblemen were accustomed to better living. Their encounters with harsh conditions and weather, and being required to work like native women, must have seemed like slavery. The tribes to which Cabeza de Vaca was enslaved included the Hans and the Capocs, and tribes later called the Karankawa and Coahuiltecan. After escaping, only 4 men, Cabeza de Vaca, Andres Dorantes de Carranza, Alonso del Castillo Maldonado, and an enslaved Moroccan Berber named Esteban, survived to reach Mexico City. Traveling mostly with this small group, Cabeza de Vaca explored what is now the U.S. state of Texas, as well as the northeastern Mexican states of Tamaulipas, Nuevo Leon and Coahuila, and possibly smaller portions of New Mexico and Arizona. He traveled on foot through the then colonized territories of Texas and the coast. He continued through Coahuila and Nueva Vizcaya, then down the Gulf of California coast to what is now Sinaloa, Mexico, over a period of roughly 8 years. Throughout those years, Cabeza de Vaca and the other men adapted to the lives of the indigenous people they stayed with, whom he later described as roots people, the fish and blackberry people, or the fig people, depending on the principal foods. During his wanderings, passing from tribe to tribe, Cabeza de Vaca later reported that he developed sympathies for the indigenous peoples. He became a trader and a healer, which gave him some freedom to travel among the tribes. As a healer, Cabeza de Vaca used blowing to heal, but claimed that God and the Christian cross led to his success. His healing of the sick gained him a reputation as a faith healer. His group attracted numerous native followers, who regarded them as children of the sun, endowed with the power to heal and destroy. As Cabeza de Vaca grew healthier, he decided that he would make his way to Panico, supporting himself through trading. He finally decided to try to reach the Spanish colony in Mexico. Many natives were said to accompany the explorers on their journey across what is now known as the American Southwest and northern Mexico. After finally reaching the colonized lands of New Spain, where he first encountered fellow Spaniards near modern-day Culiacan, Cabeza de Vaca and the 3 other men reached Mexico City. Further, he sailed back to Europe in 1537. Numerous researchers have tried to trace his route across the Southwest. As he did not begin writing his chronicle until back in Spain, he had to rely on memory. Cabeza de Vaca was uncertain of his route, aware that his account has numerous errors in chronology and geography. Historians have worked to put together pieces of the puzzle to discern his paths. Return to America. In 1540, Cabeza de Vaca was appointed adelantado of the Rio de la Plata in South America. The colony comprised parts of Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay. Cabeza de Vaca was assigned to find a usable route from this colony to the colony in Peru, on the other side of the Andes Mountains on the Pacific coast. En route, he disembarked from his fleet at Santa Catarina Island in modern Brazil, with an indigenous force plus 250 musketeers and 26 horses. He followed native trails discovered by Alejo Garcia overland to the district's Spanish capital, Asunción, far inland on the Great Paraguay River. Cabeza de Vaca is thought to have been the first European to see the Iguacu Falls. In March of 1542, Cabeza de Vaca met with Domingo Martínez de Irala and relieved him of his position as governor. The government of Asunción pledged loyalty to Cabeza de Vaca, and Irala was assigned to explore a possible route to Peru. Once Irala returned and reported, Cabeza de Vaca planned his own expedition. He hoped to reach Los Reyes and push forward into the jungle in search of a route to the gold and silver mines of Peru. The expedition did not go well, and Cabeza de Vaca returned to Asunción. During his absence, Irala had stirred up resistance to Cabeza de Vaca's rule and capitalized on political rivalries. Scholars widely agree that Cabeza de Vaca had an unusually sympathetic attitude towards the Native Americans for his time. The elite settlers in Argentina, known as encomendros, generally did not agree with his enlightened conduct toward the natives. They wanted to use them for labor, because he lost elite support, and Buenos Aires was failing as a settlement, not attracting enough residents. Martínez de Irala arrested Cabeza de Vaca in 1544 for poor administration. The former explorer was returned to Spain in 1545 for trial. Although eventually exonerated, Cabeza de Vaca never returned to South America. He wrote an extensive report on the Rio de la Plata colony in South America, strongly criticizing the conduct of Martínez de Irala. The report was bound with his earlier La Relación and published under the title Comentarios. He died poor in Seville around the year 1558. La Relación of Álvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca. La Relación of Álvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca is the account of his experiences with the Narváez expedition and after being wrecked on Galveston Island. In November of 1528, Cabeza de Vaca and his last 3 men struggled to survive. They wandered along the Texas coast as prisoners of the Han and Capoc American Indians for 2 years, while Cabeza de Vaca observed the people, picking up the ways of life and customs. They traveled through the American Southwest and ultimately reached Mexico City, nearly 8 years after being wrecked on the island. In 1537, Cabeza de Vaca returned to Spain, where he wrote his narratives of the Narváez expedition. These narratives were collected and published in 1542 in Spain. They are now known as the Relation of Álvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca. The narrative of Cabeza de Vaca is the first European book devoted completely to North America. Quote, his detailed account describes the lives of numerous tribes of American Indians at the time. Cabeza de Vaca showed compassion and respect for native peoples, which, together with the great detail he recorded, distinguishes his narrative from others of the period. Role of observer. Cabeza de Vaca reported on the customs and ways of American Indian life, aware of his status as an early European explorer. He spent 8 years with various peoples, including the Kapok, Hanj Avivari, and Arbadao. He describes details of the culture of the Milhado people, the Kapok, and Han American Indians, such as the treatment of offspring, the wedding rites, and the main sources of food. Cabeza de Vaca and his 3 fellow survivors at times served as slaves to the American Indians to survive. Through his observations, Cabeza de Vaca provides insights into 16th-century American Indian life near the present-day Mexico-Texas border. Personal report. Cabeza de Vaca wrote this narrative to Charles V to transmit what I saw and heard in the 9 years I wandered lost and miserable over many remote lands. He wanted to convey not merely a report of positions and distances, flora and fauna, but of the customs of the numerous indigenous people I talked with and dwelt among, as well as any other matters I could hear of or observe. He took care to present facts as a full account of what he observed. The Relation is the only account of many details concerning the indigenous people whom he encountered. The accuracy of his account has been validated by later reports of others, as well as by the oral traditions of descendants of some of the tribes. Many scholars question if his personal motives may have biased his account. For instance, he hoped the account would add to his prestige in Spain. Due to this, some scholars argue that in order to improve his own standing, he did not report the human rights violations committed by Narváez against the native peoples before his death. Some academics are puzzled as to why he failed to do so, suggesting that there are some mysteries remaining in regards to his motives for writing the Relation the way that he did. American Indian nations noted by name. Cabeza de Vaca identified the following peoples by name in his La Relación. The following list shows his names, together with what scholars suggested in 1919 were the likely tribes identified by names used in the 20th century. By that time, tribal identification was also related to more linguistic data. Possible Karankawan groups: Kapoks, Cocos, Diguanes, Cushions, Quavines, Copanes, Guaycones, Guapites, Camones, Karankaguises, related to Karankawa, Charuco, Bidar Orcaquizu, Han, Bidar Orcaquizu. Possible Tonkawan groups: Mendika, Tamiks, Mariamis, Jaro names, Iguaces, Aniquis. Possible Coahuiltecana desert groups: Quitols, the Fig people, Acubidaos, Avivaras, Anagados, Cutalchachas, Malacana, Susulas, Comos, Cumcrudo, Quaos, Arbadaos, Atayosh, Cuchandados, Comentarios. In 1555, after a 4-year position as adelantado in Rio de la Plata, Cabeza de Vaca wrote from memory a chronicle of the Narváez expedition in South America. It is believed that his secretary at the time, Pero Hernández, transcribed Cabeza de Vaca's account in what is known as Comentarios. The publication of Comentarios was appended to La Relación as a joint publication in Valladolid, Spain, entitled Naufragios. At that time, explorers often published the reports of travels in foreign lands. Later editions. In 1906, Naufragios was published in a new edition in Madrid, Spain. The introduction says the intent of this edition was to publicize Cabeza de Vaca's observations and experiences to strengthen authentic representations. This has been described as having the objective of portraying Cabeza de Vaca as less aggressive, while trying to authenticate his role as a sympathetic observer of the natives. Film adaptation. The drama feature film Cabeza de Vaca, a Mexican production, was directed by Nicolas Echeverria and starred Juan Diego. Based on Naufragios, the film was entered into the 41st Berlin International Film Festival. A DVD version was released in 2012. Representation in other media. Leila Lalami's novel, The Moor's Account, is a fictional memoir of Estefanico, the Moroccan slave who survived the journey and accompanied Cabeza de Vaca through the southwest. He is considered to be the first black explorer of North America. Lalami notes that the chronicle gives him one sentence. The fourth is Estefanico, an Arab Negro from Azamor. Lord Buckley created a monologue The Gassa based on Hannibal Long's novella, Ancestors of Cabeza de Vaca. Bibliography. English editions Cabeza de Vaca, Álvar Núñez. The Narrative of Cabeza de Vaca, translation of La Relación ed. Rolina Adorno and Patrick Charles Ports. Lincoln, Nebraska, University of Nebraska Press 2003. ISBN 08032-6416-X. Cabeza de Vaca, Álvar Núñez. Cabeza de Vaca's Adventures in the Unknown Interior of America, translation of La Relación, Cyclone Covey. Santa Fe, New Mexico. University of New Mexico Press 1983. ISBN 08263-06566-X. The account, Álvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca's Relación, translated by Martin Favata and Jose Fernandez. Houston Art Publico Press. February 1993. ISBN 978-1558850606. Cabeza de Vaca, Álvar Núñez. Chronicle of the Narváez Expedition. Translation of La Relación. Translated by David Fry. Edited by Ilan Stavans. Norton Critical Edition. 2013. ISBN 978-0393918151. Cabeza de Vaca, Álvar Núñez. The Commentaries of Álvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca, The Conquest of the River Plate, Part 2, London, Hakluyt, 1891. Books about Cabeza de Vaca. Adorno, Rolina and Ports, Patrick Charles. Álvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca, His Account, His Life and the Expedition of Panfilo de Narváez, 3 volumes, in English. University of Nebraska Press, Lincoln, London, hardcover, ISBN 978-0803214637. Howard, David A. Conquistador in Chains, Cabeza de Vaca and the Indians of the Americas, Tuscaloosa, University of Alabama Press. ISBN 978-0817308285. Long, Haniel, Interlinear et Cabeza de Vaca, a fictionalized account of Cabeza de Vaca's journey. Resende, Andres. A Land So Strange. The Epic Journey of Cabeza de Vaca. Basic Books. Perseus, 2007. ISBN 0-465-06840-5. Schneider, Paul. Brutal Journey, Cabeza de Vaca and the Epic First Crossing of North America. New York, Henry Holt, 2007. ISBN 08050832000. Udall, Stuart L. Majestic Journey, Coronado's Inland Empire, Museum of New Mexico Press, 1995. ISBN 0890132852. Varnum, Robin. Álvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca, American Trailblazer, Norman, Oklahoma, University of Oklahoma Press, 2014. Wild, Peter. Álvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca. Boise, Idaho. Boise State University, 1991. ISBN 978-088-4301-004 OCLC 245159551 656,314,379. Spanish Adorno, Rolina and Ports, Patrick Charles, Álvaro Núñez Cabeza de Vaca, Sus Logros, Su vida y la expedition de Panfilo de Narváez, 3 volumes, in Spanish, University of Nebraska Press, Lincoln, London, hardcover, 1317 pages, ISBN 978-08032145545. Caba, Ruben, Gómez Lucena, Eloisa, La Radicia de Cabeza de Vaca, Tras los Pasos de Álvar Núñez Portieras Americanas, format equals requires, URL equals. Terra Incognita, Barcelona, Edasa, ISBN 978,435,039,864. Caba, Ruben, Gómez Lucena, Eloisa, Cabeza de Vaca, El Ulises del Nuevo Mundo. Clio Historia, 72-79. ISSN 1579-3532. Jauregui, Carlos, Cabeza de Vaca, Malacosa y las Vicisitudes de la Extraneza. Revista de Estudios Hispánicos XLVIII. 3. 421-447. Maura, Juan Francisco, ed. Carta de Luis Ramirez a su padre desde el Brasil. Lemia Parnacio. AJKDAS LKJFL KFHODHSUHYJ. ISSN 1579-735-X. Retrieved 14 April 2010. Maura, Juan Francisco, Álvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca, El Gran Burlador de América, 2nd edition, corrected and augmented. Lemia Parnacio. ISSN 1579-735-X. Retrieved 7 July 2011. Maura, Juan Francisco, Álvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca, El Gran Burlador de América, Lemia Parnacio. ISSN 1579-735-X. Retrieved 14 April 2010. Maura, Juan Francisco, El Libro 50 de la Historia General y Natural de las Indias de Gonzalo Fernández de Oviedo. Génesis y inspiración de algunos episodios de Naufragios de Álvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca. Lemia 1787-100. University of Valencia http Parnacio, UV, S. Lemia, Revista 1706_Maura_1, PDF, Italian Giovanbattista Ramuscia, del Navigazione Viaggiatosa volume, pp. 310-330, Relación Chafici Álvaro Núñez de Capo de Vaca, Venetia, 1565.